Welcome aboard the 4 to 7 podcast. I am Chris, as always, joined with Jerry, part of the Ascension Podcast Network. Shoutouts to Middle Initial Podcasts. You know the drill. Make sure you're following them. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channels. New York is now officially about to be a baseball town solely once again as the Knicks are fighting for their lives, down 3-1 to the Pacers. So soon all we will have to look forward to in this city is the baseball. Luckily both teams are still doing pretty well, so it should be it should make for a fun summer if the I know that you're down south, but if the weather up here ever decides that it wants to act like it's summer, it should be a pretty fun summer with the way the Yankees and Mets have been playing.
We have officially hit down here the point in the calendar where if you take 2 steps outside at 8 a.m., boom, humidity walking me around the ring in the walls of Jericho. It is not good.
Yeah, we're still I'm not sure about New York, but here in Pittsburgh we're still struggling to like, stay in like the 60s pretty much. It's been like in like the
I did see that.
Yeah, it's been in like the low 60s, like high 50s lately, which I don't hate, but also it's time for it to get a little warmer.
It was just about this time a year ago that I went to New York for my trip up there, and I consider how surprised I was when I stepped outside on May 31st, and I'm like, man, this doesn't feel like overwhelming humidity at 3 in the afternoon. They made this? Wow, this is great.
Yeah, I think I was in New York like a week before that, and I was at a Yankee game. I think like maybe exactly a week before that, and it was actually pretty hot that day. I had a pretty miserable experience that day. The game itself was pretty good. The Yankees beat the Mariners like 5-1 that day, if I remember correctly. But the shitty part was I thought it was gonna rain, so I wore my hoodie like under my shirt, and then like by like the 7th or 8th inning, I was like, if I don't take this hoodie off, I'm going to die. So that was certainly fun to deal with. But
also, happy Ass of the Jackpot anniversary day to all who observe.
Yes, I almost forgot. I was gonna mention that in the intro, but I completely forgot. So thanks for reminding me. It's the 9-year anniversary of Noah Syndergaard throwing behind Chase Utley for his assault.
What's called what it is.
For his crimes against humanity in the NLDS the prior year, and he was immediately thrown out of the game.
He was not.
Then
that game, yes. Thor, yeah.
Well, yeah. No, I'm saying Thor was
thrown
out. Yeah, no, Utley was not thrown out. Nothing was done about that, as it was said in that mic'd up clip. But yeah.
Also,
today,
in lieu of recent events, he is no longer Thor. He is just Noah from Texas, an unemployed guy.
Right. Yeah. Unemployed Noah from Texas.
Right.
He's like the older brother that like lives in your parents' basement and, smokes weed and talks about conspiracy theories. But
if I may quote the late John Witherspoon, I want you to get your ass up today, go out and look for a job. The word today is job. J-O-B. You hear me?
Job. Yes. Yes, it is definitely that's definitely the word of the day. Or else your ass will also be in the jackpot. So you gotta work in this economy. But yeah, so many things were born on this day 9 years ago. You had Ass in the Jackpot Day. You also was also the same day as the death of Harambe, which I think was just I was today years old when I found out that was a thing, like
Yeah.
that was a thing, that both of those things happened on the same day. So it's a happy day, but also a somber day, and definitely a day that it feels like society as a whole has just been down the shitter ever since that day. So this is basically the 9-year anniversary of like the last time society was like passable as something halfway decent.
Many people argue about what was the day that irreversibly opened the portal to hell. I've heard that day. I've heard the Cubs coming back and finishing the job to win the World Series, like in that manner. That was the moment that put us on the parallel path that we're on now. And
yeah, that was when
I'm willing to listen to all of it.
Yeah, that was when I thought we were in trouble. Was when the Cubs won the World Series. I was like, if the Cubs could win the World Series, then anything could happen in the real world, and then it did. So here we are. But yeah, let's get into some baseball. So riding the 4 train first. The Yankees have won their 7th series in a row after a 3-2 win over the Angels last night. Devin Williams had to close the game because Luke Weaver has been pitching way too much, so he needed the night off. So they kind of had to go with Devin Williams last night. It was 3-0 going into the 9th. By the end of the 9th, it was 3-2, and we were holding on for dear life. But it is what it is. Obviously, there's something mental going on there where that man just cannot pitch the 9th inning. So I mean, obviously, understandable. Luke Weaver is going to need days off here and there, especially if we keep winning games and winning close games and winning series, which is what you want. It's definitely what you want. But it's going to be inevitable that Luke Weaver is going to need a day off here and there. You're just going to have to figure something else out for the 9th inning. I don't know what to tell you.
And maybe that's the best way to get Devin Williams back mentally is.
I mean, he's been pitching great since they moved him to like the 8th inning. He's been pitching really well, but then like he comes out last night. It was like the first time he had like shown up in the 9th inning since he lost the closer role, and he showed you why he lost the closer role.
It's kind of an interesting juxtaposition to be in, Chris, because I mean, like, I don't think Luke Weaver did anything wrong to lose the closer spot coming out of last year. And obviously I understand you want to beef up your bullpen. Like if someone like Devin Williams gets offered to you, it's one of those like, all right, well, we'll worry about Luke Weaver later. Like, this just got presented to us. We have to take this opportunity. But it's weird is now you're kind of juggling this thing where, Weaver's been perfectly acceptable as a closer. If I were a Yankee fan, I would
better
have
than acceptable. He's been phenomenal, honestly.
But then you add Williams, and it's like, okay, well, cool. Now we're gonna have a 1-2 punch, no matter what. And then it's, all right. Well, I guess we got to go back to Luke Weaver, and it's.
Yeah, I mean going into
back to how hectic the playoff scheduling is, and there might come a point in a series this October where it's, hey, look, Weaver's thrown 3 days in a row. He's like the Mets ran into this problem with Diaz last year in the Milwaukee series. He had thrown like 30, 40 pitches over the span of 4 or 5 days, to the point that when they needed to get the last 3 outs of the Milwaukee series, they had to go to David Peterson because everybody else was spent. And it's like, if there's a point where, hey, Luke Weaver literally doesn't have anything in the tank right now, like, we got to try somebody. You got to know that Devin Williams is there. Like, can you give us 3 outs here? We need these 3 outs. So
yeah,
this might not be the worst thing in the world to like try to just feed him one of these spots on occasion to be like, see, look, you can still do this. And if we really do what it matters,
hectic as it is. Yeah, I mean, as hectic as it is, he still got it done. But it's just one of those things there where he was lights out in the 8th inning for like the 2 weeks leading up to that, and then all of a sudden he pitches in the 9th inning, and it's like cardiac arrest all over again. So as much as we can avoid the ninth inning with Devin Williams, the better. I could see situations like that arising where, Luke Weaver's pitched, however many days in a row, and you got to go to someone else, whether it's Devin Williams or, someone else. Maybe I thought they gave Williams too long of a leash. Like they had Ellie De Los Santos warming up, and not that Ellie De Los Santos is anything to like write home about, but I was like, with each passing at bat, I was like, I want Ellie De Los Santos in this game right
Wow.
now. Like that's kind of where I was at, which might be an overreaction, but and Florida took the lead.
I told you it was going to be hilarious.
Yeah, I missed that part. Talking about the hockey, of course, but nonetheless, Yankees win their 7th straight series. Currently going for the sweep, up 1-0 on the Angels, almost halfway through that game as we speak. Judge still the best hitter on this planet. Paul Goldschmidt is continuing his good year. Cody Bellinger staying hot. I feel like Grisham's cooled down a little bit as of late. And then Volpe did have a sac fly tonight, so he was able to elevate a baseball, which we're a big fan of that. So if he could just keep doing that consistently, I think that he'll be okay. But overall the Yankees doing pretty well, all things considered, considering the injuries that they're dealing with at the moment. Got to give Carlos Rodon some props too, because I know that in a few episodes earlier in the season and last season, and even before podcasting became a thing, even before podcasting about like the Yankees and baseball became a thing for me in 2023, I had been very critical of Carlos Rodon since he came to the Yankees, but he's really got it locked down right now, and he seems to have it figured out. They were talking on the broadcast last night about how he's expanded his arsenal, and he's bought into like the Matt Blake, like the Matt Blake pitching academy or whatever. And the results seem to speak for themselves. He's been, very much, his command has been great. His velocity is pretty much as good as you could ask for out of Carlos Rodon. And the results have spoken for themselves, and he's putting together a very nice year, and it's being, in a lot of ways, it's kind of being overshadowed by how dominant Max Fried has been. And what it really what it got me thinking was like, how good would this team be? I mean, obviously they're still a very good team. They're first place in the AL East, second best team in the American League, just a couple of games behind the Tigers for the for number 1 overall in the AL. But how good would this team be if Cole didn't get hurt, and then you just had a 3-headed monster at the top of your rotation?
Well, I know you mentioned he's been good and he's been overshadowed by how good Fried's been. Well, I think that was kind of the plan all along was, Garrett Cole's always been the guy from the day he put the uniform on. And even when you sign Rodon, even coming off the track record that he'd had in Chicago and with the Giants, it's, hey, look, if he's your 2, you're in good shape. And he just had never quite pitched to what you guys had hoped he would be as a number 2. But this is absolutely what it should look like is, hey, yeah, you think you've beaten the ace and you're going to get through the rest of this series unscathed. And it's nope. He's waiting.
Now you got to deal with Rodon.
Mm-hmm. And credit to him, especially because the rest of the rotation's kind of been bumpy where, Will Warren's going through his rookie ups and downs, which you expect. Clark Schmidt's still learning to pitch as a major leaguer. And they've kind of pieced the other spot together while they wait for Hill to come back. Like, that's what a veteran, well-paid pitcher, like, that's the job, is to be the guy to step up to go, hey, look, I don't know about the other 3 spots in this rotation, but me and Max got the rest of this. That's exactly what you pay Carlos Rodon to do is to be that presence, to be the steadying hand. And we're seeing it as I think the power play just expired, but Florida that series is now over.
Nice. They got the empty netter.
Yeah, like right after the penalty expired.
Nice. Yeah,
so
my
it wasn't 6-on-4 anymore, but
yeah, my stream is a tad behind, but very happy to see the Carolina Panthers go. The biggest frauds of the century. Rob Brindamore is a cuck. Need I say more?
Apologies, and I would like to apologize to the San Jose Sharks of the last decade for ever calling the Carolina Hurricanes the new Sharks, because they didn't go out like this.
Yeah. The Sharks actually. I just saw the empty netter. The Sharks actually made it to a Cup Finals, and they put up a pretty valiant effort against the Penguins in that finals,
and lost with dignity usually.
Yeah, they didn't really. They didn't really get like destroyed too much. But they were always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But
just wish they had beaten the Kings that one time. But anyway, that's another podcast.
Back to.
But no, Rodon being
baseball.
That guy. You need someone to be like, hey, look, you never know what you're going to get start from Warren right now. Same for Schmidt and same out of the 5 spot, but 2 out of the 5.
Well, Yarborough's been really solid lately, actually, and it's kind of wild how good Yarborough has been. I mean, albeit he hasn't, his last couple of games haven't been against like his past couple of outings haven't been against like the best teams. I do think did he start any of the games against the Mets?
I know you guys did move the rotation around slightly to make sure that Fried pitched the finale. So
Fried did end up pitching that last game. So because I think I think that if anything, Yarborough might have pitched that second game, but he didn't pitch badly.
No, that game was lost well after he was out.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put that on him.
Yeah, so Yarborough, he's been going up against major league lineups with a sub 90 fastball, and he's been very effective somehow, which you don't really hear about too often, like in baseball, especially not today, to have like that slow of a fastball and still be effective, but he's doing it.
It's not that I'm comparing the two because they're two very different types of pitchers, but both kind of live in the idea of like they don't have to throw hard. But that Kyle Hendricks never really threw that particularly hard, but was a masterful pitcher. And when he was at his best, he was Cy Young caliber. I mean, I don't think Ryan Yarborough's that, but I think we see too many guys now that are just throwers and not pitchers, where when you get into tight spots or, okay, I don't have everything working for me tonight, how am I going to get 6 innings out of this? That used to be a thing where it's, all right, well, I guess I got to go to this tonight. It's honestly, it's probably the thing that I enjoyed the most while Jacob deGrom was a Met was, if he's just hitting everything and he's throwing 99, like, you're not going to hit him. But the times where he actually had to really work and really pitch, that's where he was at his best. And I don't know if we talked about it last show or maybe 2 shows prior, but I think our description of Ryan Yarborough was that he was a professional pitcher. If you need him to come in and open, he can do that. If you need him to be the piggyback guy for the opener, he'll do that. If you need him to throw 5 innings, he'll do that. If you need him to set up or close, he'll do those too. So the fact that he's been this effective for you and at least doing the job of, hey, we have this offense. You just got to keep us in the game. We'll take care of the rest. And he's generally done that.
Yeah. He's really just been like the quintessential professional pitcher. He just goes out and just does his job. He just does what he's asked to do, whether, it's any of the aforementioned things that you just mentioned. He does them all, and he does them all pretty. He doesn't do anything great or extraordinarily well, but he does everything pretty solidly for the most part. And, out of like your number 5 pitcher / fringe bullpen guy, that you really can't ask for much more than that. So yeah, Yarborough's been really solid. Will Warren, I think, has kind of settled in a little bit. He's not getting shelled the way he's not really getting shelled the way he was. Like, we might be at a point where, Clark Schmidt might be the weak link of the pitching staff. And I actually think it was Schmidt who pitched that game against the Mets that we lost. But
he did.
That wasn't even his fault. The game was lost. I believe, wasn't that game lost in like the 9th inning or extras, I believe?
Yeah, Fernando Cruz was the one who gave up the runs.
That's right. Yeah, so everything is everything's clicking pretty well for the Yankees right now. We got I know on the last episode we were talking about like how they're going to be playing the Dodgers in LA, and I was blanking on when that series was going to happen. Well, that series is happening this weekend, actually. The Yankees, they'll have a day off. They'll have a day off after this game against the Angels, and then they'll have a weekend stint with the LA Dodgers, a World Series rematch on their field. So that'll definitely be interesting to watch. You got Fried going up against Gonsolin in the first game, which will be on Apple TV, which
you're about to have the same experience I did last week.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna. Yeah, like I don't even know if I still have Apple TV or not. I haven't really tried to. I haven't really tried firing up Apple TV. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what we can do about watching that game. And then next day it's Will Warren against this Knack fella for the Dodgers.
Well, you should hit him. Take it from me.
Yeah, we should definitely be able to get a few knacks off of him. Landon Knack. So yeah, actually, the first two games are pretty favorable, and then they finish up Sunday Night Baseball. They'll be going up against Yamamoto. Who I've now seen pitch in person 3 times and twice this year.
Oh wow!
I saw him pitch at a Dodger game against the Padres like early last season, and then when me and my friends did that that California trip like a month ago, we saw Yamamoto pitch against the Pirates, and it was Skeens against Yamamoto. Actually, it was a great matchup. And then me and my girlfriend, we just went to on Monday on Memorial Day. We went to the Dodger Guardian game in Cleveland, and Yamamoto pitched. So, been seeing a lot of Yamamoto.
Did he start the World Series game you went to?
No, that was Walker Buehler. It was Walker Buehler versus Clark Schmidt in that one, and Walker Buehler absolutely shoved against us. But
that's right. Yeah, because Yamamoto was game 2. You're right.
Yeah, but it'll be Sunday Night Baseball. Yamamoto will be pitching, and I guess for us it'll either be Rodon or maybe maybe Yarborough for that game. They don't have the starter listed on account.
My ESPN app has Yarborough listed as the starter.
Okay. Yeah, so aside from my score app actually has that listed as the matchup too. Yeah, so really aside from the last game, like both of the first 2 games, the pitching matchups are pretty favorable for us. So I know the Dodgers are a great team, and obviously they're World Series champs, and they handled us with the level of ease that they did last year for a reason. But I'm interested to see how we do against the Dodgers this year, because it's a very different team with like a very different makeup. So I'm interested to see like how this version of the Yankees matches up against the Dodgers if we in the event we were to see them again in October.
Yeah, and part of it is like, yeah, you want to get your lick back from last year, but it's also one of those things where it's like, I'm sure if you guys continue on this clip, that there will be moves made at the deadline, and the Dodgers always do something. It's just kind of how they've operated, as they should. So it's one of those things of, yeah, it would be good to see, how we match up against these teams. But we also know, like, if these two teams were to face again, it wouldn't be the same 26-man roster that's going to go into this weekend.
No, plus, Stanton should be back
right
if we get that far, assuming he doesn't get hurt again. But, yeah, Stanton should be back. So,
Heel should be back.
Yeah, Heel should also be back, which I don't even, I do wonder how they're going to handle his, his coming back. And I think Stanton's like actually going to be taking, I think Stanton actually started like swinging or is going to start swinging soon. But
and plus with the Dodgers, you never know how many arms they're going to have left by the postseason, because we just kind of see this every year now. It's just, for some reason, they always have an attrition of arms, and they end up having to bullpen a couple of games every postseason. So, and that's not even to discuss the fact that they pretty much have a whole rotation on the IL right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like, Stanton has been swinging and has been running, according to Brian Cashman, who appeared on MLB Network Radio earlier this week. So it seems like he is, on the mend and should be back. I don't know what the exact timeline for his return is, but I'm thinking maybe by the All-Star break or after the All-Star break, we should see Giancarlo back, and it'll definitely be interesting to see how they implement him into the lineup, and while also making sure that making sure that guys like Ben Rice, keep getting their reps. So
right. Yeah, I mean, you've gotten plenty of production to them at this point. You want to make sure that they stay that way.
Yeah. So you don't want to just shut him down or relegate him to the bench. Like, I think there should be, and he's a pretty versatile player. I think we talked about this on the episode when Paul came on. He's a pretty versatile player too. Like, he can play first base, he can play catcher if you need him to. Not that I really want him to be playing catcher all that often, but there are definitely ways to keep him in the lineup and keep him involved. So it'll be.
Might need him to play third.
Yeah, we might need him to play third. Because no disrespect to Ozzy Peraza or Jorbiting my Vivas, but you kind of need a little more pop in the bat at third base. So
at least until Jazz gets back.
Yeah, yeah, I think when Jazz comes back, then you move him to second, which I think depending on what moves they make, at the deadline, I mean, I think like trading for a second or third baseman, and then you either keep Jazz at second or move him to third if you trade for a second baseman. I think that would be obviously, in addition to some bullpen help. I think that would be like a great direction for them to go into. But yeah, I feel like really they just at this point maybe just a little more depth is like their biggest need. But yeah, they play the Dodgers with some favorable pitching matchups, and then in the early part of next week, I believe they're they fly back to New York and they play the Cleveland Guardians, who are always who are never seem to be great, but are always they're always scrappy and they're always right there. And that's the case. That's the case yet again. They're currently the top wild card team, and they're only a few games behind the they're 6 games behind the Tigers in the AL Central. So always fun to always fun to play them. So definitely 2 series with some good more good after taking care of business against the Rockies, even though they actually won a game against us, and taking care of business in this Angels series, and hopefully you can make up for not sweeping the Rockies by sweeping this series. Then you get a couple of measuring stick series as you go into June after what's been a great May.
This is going to be a stretch for you guys coming up where it with series that are going to have a lot of juice to it. You got the Dodgers this weekend, then it's the ALCS rematch with the Guardians, then it's the Red Sox, then it's the Royals.
That's at home, right?
Yep. And then to KC for another playoff rematch.
Yep.
Then you go to Boston. So that's going to be a bunch of series in a row where it's, day to day. I know players try to keep themselves pretty even keeled, but that's going to be a stretch where they'll be up for that.
Yeah, they'll be up for it, and the atmosphere will put them up to it, if nothing else. And with with the Yankees and Red Sox, I know people like to say the rivalry is not really what it once was, because it seems like they're never both like great at the same time. Like either the Yankees are really good and the Red Sox suck, or the Red Sox are good and the Yankees are like average. But it never really seems like they're both like evenly matched this day and age. I would say, no matter what the records are, I think I think both teams are going to come to that series ready to play. So that'll definitely be fun to we'll get a healthy dose of Boston after I don't think we've seen them yet this year. So,
and it appears you were catching them at a very good time.
Yes. Yes, we are catching them at a very good time. It was someone on the team come out and just flat out say like, yeah, we suck right now, or we're not very good. So, and I think didn't you send me that tweet? Raise the banner, like we suck right now.
The William Fantasy tweet.
Yeah, the William Fantasy tweet. So hopefully we can raise a few more banners in Fenway that weekend when we're there. So. Yeah, and then I think we play the Orioles next month too. I mean, what a disaster they are, but another division matchup that I still think will have some juice. I mean, the last few times we played the Orioles, there's been beef involving Heston Kjerstad for one reason or another. So, yeah, there should be should definitely be some excitement around that series too.
Who had Brandon Hyde being? I don't know if he was the first manager fired, but at the worst, the second manager fired this year. Because wow,
yeah, I think Derek Shelton got fired first. Yeah, and then
within the week, I believe, within a week of each other.
I can't believe I said Craig Counsell was going to be the first manager to get fired. That was that was stupid, but the best ability is accountability. So I'm holding myself accountable for that horrendous take. So
we were doing that as a hot take, though. So I'll grant you clemency for that. Like we were asked to put up a hot take. You put up a hot take. Sometimes it doesn't always come to fruition.
Yeah, maybe a little too hot. I feel like just a sidebar real quick. I mean, what would you say is like the one storyline or the one thing that's happened this season? I'm just going off the dome here, like off script, but the one thing that's happened this season in baseball that you would say, like, if someone would have said this would happen before the season, it would be considered to be a hot take. Like
if you told me the Orioles were going to be a bottom 5 record in the MLB, I would not have believed you.
I
knew they had flaws.
The manager got fired. Yeah, that's
I would have said like, okay, they're flawed. They might come back down to earth a little bit because of those flaws. But to tell me that we're going to be past Memorial Day and I don't think they have 20 wins yet, I wouldn't have. I would have said that was a hot take.
Yeah, they're still under 20 wins. I'd say that's a pretty hot take. I would say if you told me that, I think if you told me the Diamondbacks would be under 500 even in that division, I would consider that to be a bit of a hot take because I was a lot more bullish on the Diamondbacks going into
I think
this
everybody
season.
was.
Yeah.
I don't think we expected their pitching to be this bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of bizarre how the pitching has just kind of bottomed out there.
Because
But
Corbin Carroll's looked like 2023 Corbin Carroll, and he was a big reason that they did what they did. Ketel Marte's still as good as advertised. Geraldo Perdomo is now just an above average major league shortstop.
he's like the league leader, one of the league leaders in WAR now. I think he's like second behind Aaron Judge.
Yeah, like if he gets an all-star nod this year, it might actually be legitimate as opposed to the one he got 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But Burns has been good. Burns is, if he hasn't been quite as good as he was last year, I certainly wouldn't say, oh, that's a bad contract right now. He's still pitching to his contract. But Gallen's been down. Kelly's been down. Eduardo Rodriguez. Yeah. The only other good pitcher they've really had is Brandon Pfaadt from a starter's perspective. And then that whole bullpen needs a makeover because every time I look and I see the ERA next to him, it's 5, it's 8, it's 7. Look, the only good reliever they've had is AJ Puck, and he's been hurt for almost 2 months now.
Yeah. Yeah, and he is typically he is not that good. Or he hasn't.
If he's your best reliever, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because he's not closing.
Exactly. But yeah, so all things considered, all things pretty good in Yankee land right now. Just got to keep stacking up. You just got to keep stacking up series wins. I actually, as we transition over to the Mets, I actually saw a tweet where if you take 2 out of 3 in every series, if you win every series and sweep none of them, you're still winning 108 games.
Yeah, so, that's a 667 winning percentage. Yeah, you should get a first round bye with that. You probably get home field with that.
Yeah, because I know people were freaking out a little bit today that the Mets lost a game to the White Sox, but it's gonna happen from time to time. But Mets, since we last spoke, they took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, which I don't know if we were necessarily expecting that, considering how things were going into that series.
And also the one game
and
they
I think
lost.
The game you said, like, yeah, just go ahead and chalk that one up as a loss. I'm pretty sure the Mets. It was the Tyler Miguel game, which nobody's falling for it, but they ended up winning that game.
So that was the Boston game that they won, which.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They ended up winning that game. Wasn't there a game in the Dodgers series you were saying to chalk up as a loss and they ended up winning? Or
no, I think I had written off McGill against the Red Sox, and I was. Okay. But even the game they lost against the Dodgers had 2 of the weirder plays I've ever seen.
Yeah.
With the you can actually tag up if a ball deflects off a player's glove and the other guy catches it, you're still allowed to tag on the touch. I've never seen that before. And
wait, so you can start tagging on the tip? Like, you don't have to wait for the other guy to catch it?
So the way the play developed, it was first and second. It's into the gap. Soto and Taylor both come over. It hits off Taylor's glove. It doesn't hit the ground, but Soto catches it off the ricochet, and they throw to second thinking that they're going to double up the runner at second. And then they said, no, both runners tagged. And I was like, the runners, like, they go back and they show the video. They're like, no, they left before Soto caught the ball. That's an out. And then I guess so there's a rule that on a deflection, the runner can tag on the touch. Because, and they said this later in the broadcast, because for like 2 solid innings, I'm like, there's I've never seen that happen.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, the outfielder can just juggle the ball and the runner has, and I'm like, yeah, because somebody does that.
Right.
And then sure enough, 2 innings later on the broadcast, they were like, they actually made this rule in the late 1800s because an outfielder kept doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine
Some shit
it
that
just
happened
happened more.
130 years ago we're abiding by. Like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
But it held
that's
up.
the rules.
And then as soon as that play happened, the rain delays started. So Canning came out of that game. And as soon as they came back from that game, the 2 runs scored. Again, off of something I've never seen called before. Now, in the interest of fairness, the Mets also were the beneficiary of something I've never seen called, which is the third baseman blocked Marte's view of the ball being caught. I've never heard that called before in my life. I also wonder why that's a rule, because the runner has the third base coach. He doesn't need to see the ball being caught. Most times the runner's going on the coach's word. Again, I've never seen that called. But then also they came back. They scored 3 in the 9th off Tanner Scott, who got tagged again today.
He did, yeah. My fantasy team also got tagged for that.
But they had chances, I believe, in the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th to win the game. And at least one of those sequences was Lindor, Soto, and Pete, and didn't score. So just a very weird 13-inning game that didn't end till 1 a.m. But the other 2 games, they won standard. David Peterson pitched 8, which the more I look at the numbers, he came off of the hip surgery last year going into the season. Now, every once in a while now, he'll have a bad start, but you can almost just chalk that up now to, hey, everybody has a bad start on occasion. David Peterson might just be a very good major league starting pitcher now. Like, all last year, and I think I probably brought this up on the show at the time, you kind of kept waiting for the other shoe to drop with him, because we had seen this in the past with him where it's, okay, hey, he's put together 2 or 3 good starts. Like, okay, maybe there's something. And then he would have a month where he would just get shelled and you would have to go back to square one. You don't really worry about the square one part anymore. Like, this is just who he is. And then Kodai Senga comes out, and the first 13 pitches of the game, boom, leadoff home run, boom, error, boom, another runner on. And it's like, oh, the Dodgers are going to put up a 6 spot here in the first inning. And it's against Senga. And they worked him twice last year in the NLCS. Like, this can't be good for his confidence. If we're going to be in a playoff series again with these guys, like, Senga's head's got to be there. And he got out of it. Now, credit Tyrone Taylor, who made a terrific play. And low-key might be one of the best or most important parts of this season to this point, because as I said last year during the playoffs, he just seems to do at least something once a game. It might be a hit. It might be a defensive play. He might steal the run. But Tyrone Taylor shows up every single game somehow. But Senga found a way to get through 6 innings in that game. And yeah, today's not great, but they'd already won 2. And this was kind of a weird situation anyway, where I think right before first pitch last night, they had said, we're moving this game up because we expect bad weather tomorrow night. We're making this a 110 game.
That's right. Yeah, I saw Mark Gooden tweeting about that.
Well, I mean, you never know.
He was saying the Mets apparently the Mets were not aware that the game started at 1:00 either.
That might be true. And I mean, you could just tell because there weren't that many people there. I mean, and understandably, it's not like people could change their plans last minute. Like, people are working.
Yeah,
you could tell the ballpark was off, and I kind of wonder. Neither starting pitcher really threw all that well. I think Shane Smith got through 5 innings for the White Sox, but he walked 5 or 6 guys. And I just wonder if, when you're a starting pitcher, we hear so often how much routine matters.
Right.
And then you find out less than 12 hours before
the game
your
starts
start.
3 minutes late. Garrett Cole loses his shit and blows the elbow out.
So 12 hours before you're supposed to start, and now it's like, I mean, you hear often about, like, I mean, not often, but sometimes starting pitchers don't even show up the day before they're supposed to pitch, because it's like, somebody did. I think Severino did this last year. I think he flew out. I think they were going to the West Coast, so he left early just to get used to the time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so I'm not getting their day of, and my body's all off. Like, guys really value being in a rhythm and having their routine for that. And then
not Doc Ellis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's one of one. But yeah, at 7 p.m. the night before, it's, well, now you got to go change everything because tomorrow's game's at 1:00, because neither Canning nor Smith looked all that sharp.
Yeah.
And, the weather wasn't great today. So, again, not trying to make excuses, but I think everybody was a little off.
Everyone plays in the same weather.
Yeah, I think both teams were off, understandably. But,
Yeah.
we talk about it. They won the series, and they did what they needed to do. And 6 of your next 10 are against the Rockies. Handle your business. I mean, I said this last year. We had the White Sox late in the year going into September, and it's like, hey, look, if you're a serious ball club, handle your business.
Handle it. Yeah.
And they did. It doesn't matter how. You need 6 wins, and if you, by God, somehow get to an LA, cool. But I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to win the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah, win these games that are in front of you right now.
Yeah, and the Phillies and Braves are, I think, playing each other again in the not too distant future. So they're going to be beating up on each other.
Yeah.
You got a chance to create some space here.
Yeah. I guess will it feel weird? Will it feel weird? Kind of. I guess you kind of need the Braves to win those games, or you're going to be pulling for the Braves because you're trying to close in on Philly. Will it feel? I mean, obviously, you're probably just rooting for probably just,
no matter what.
You're probably just rooting for the building to enclose on everyone. But I guess,
well, hey, look, if the Braves lose, they're further back. Great, get them out of here. If the Phillies lose, then we're gaining ground. Fine, I'm good either way.
Yeah, true. I'd probably prefer the latter. I'd probably prefer gain ground on the division, because I mean you can see. I mean, it seems to vary from year to year. With like how like in 2023, pretty much all the teams that got first round buys in 2023, like I think all but one got eliminated in the first round, like all the first round buy teams, and then last year, like all the first round buy teams advanced to the next round. So
except for one.
That's right, you're right, except for one, my bad. But most of them did, and so it's like something's kind of got to give there, but also it's like I would still say at the end of the day, like it's probably more valuable to win the division and not find yourself in one of those wild card series.
I don't even look at so much at it from a perspective of division wild card. It's more a perspective of if we get to September, like we're going to be in contention with somebody. I don't think whoever comes from the NL East into the postseason, I think they will have had to have worked to get there. I don't think it's going to be a stroll. And all things being equal, if we get to that situation, we just beat the Phillies in a playoff series last year. And not only that, but down the stretch in September, we had to play them multiple times. Or we had multiple series with them. We took 3 of 4 at home against them late last year. They took 2 of 3 in Philly, but both the losses were close. I don't think this team is as intimidated by the Phillies as maybe past teams were against the Phillies.
No.
I know we had game 161 against Atlanta last year, and that's a great moment. I still would rather not have to face the Braves or be going up against them down the stretch against something. It's just one of those things where
trauma.
In one game, anything can happen. But to have beaten the Phillies in a series where they had home field and to have beaten them in all different kind of ways. We beat them in comebacks. We beat them in tight games. We thumped Aaron Nola and get like every kind of way that you can beat a team. We did that. So to me, it's like, okay, what is there to be afraid of? We showed we could do it. Whereas with the Braves, it's we came back in one game. Where
side note,
any kind of thing can happen. So,
side note, did the Mets break Aaron Nola? Like, I think he might just be cooked.
I wonder if it's more of a physical thing because Aaron Nola has been one of the few guys over the past 10 years that's as close to a workhorse pitcher or whatever you define a workhorse pitcher as now. Someone that's going to generally throw between 180 and 200 every year. He's that. And people forget he's been in the big since 2015. Like, maybe he's just out of bullets. Like, he's, I think, 32 now or 33. Like, at some point, like, that bill comes due.
Yeah, we have the credit card bill always comes due, and Father Time's undefeated, and I think like pitchers more so than any other position in baseball, like because they say like once you get to the wrong side of 30, once you get to the wrong side of 30, it's like all right, it's kind of a matter, it's a matter of when, not if, like you're gonna fall off. And I think that pitchers kind of fall off harder than like any position players do.
And I always say, and it's something I always talk about whenever people really get into the pitch count discussions, is I don't think that we look at this correctly because, and I may have mentioned this on the show, but we look just at what they're throwing in game. We're not counting how much they put into their in-between pitches, the long toss before the game, the bullpen before the game, the side sessions that they have in between starts, the work that they do in the offseason, the work that they do daily at spring training. Like, we look at just all the times that they do this when it counts. Yeah. They're doing this more than we realize. That counts against your body all the same. There's not something in your body that goes, all right, well, this doesn't actually mean anything.
This is live BP, so like this doesn't count towards my wear and tear.
Turn the pain setting off. This doesn't mean anything. Like, no.
Yeah. It's not like the free practice in NCAA where anything that happens in that practice just doesn't affect your wear and tear. This is like real life.
Yeah, you don't get to turn injuries off.
So all that stuff does add up. It was kind of a long time ago, but I remember I was either watching a game or listening to a podcast. I forget what it was, but I remember someone saying that the whole taking a pitcher out after 100 pitches, 100 pitches in the game is kind of like the milestone where it's like, okay, if you made it this far, like unless you got like a no or a perfect game going, like it's time for you to leave. I've heard that like there's no real science behind that, and that 100 was just kind of like there's no real science behind the 100 pitches number. That's just kind of like what they've always just done.
I mean, I guess
falls into like the whole thing with like being a creature of habit and routine.
I mean, I guess if there's anything tangible that you want to put to that is if you go back and look at a guy's film from every time that he's done that before, it's, oh, well, after 100, his velocity drops, or at this point, he doesn't get as much break on his slider, or
he starts losing control
after 105.
Yeah, because the control always goes before the velocity.
Yeah, so if there's tangible things to point to where it's like, hey, well, he just doesn't quite have it as well at that point, more so than, well, if we take him out at this point, he'll definitely be healthy. Yeah, you can't protect that. That the body's going to break when it's going to break, and there's no amount of playing God that we can do to prevent that. But if you're looking at it from a strictly competitive standpoint, yeah, there's ways to work around that. That was kind of the crux of the argument of why the whole did he leave Pedro out too long thing was.
Yeah.
Past a certain point, like his opponent's average was like 350. And it's like, okay, yeah, he starts to lose juice on the fastball. It gets a little easier to square up. Yeah, for that reason, you take him out of the game.
Yeah, or I mean, that's like a very. I feel like that's like a double-edged sword, that whole argument, because like, I think like when you get to that point, like Game 7 of the ALCS, and you got your ace on the hill, I think that you're, as a manager, I'm relying much more on just like feel for the game and just how things are going, rather than like, oh, well, what do the numbers say, or what's his pitch count, like, where are we at in the game? And like, obviously, hindsight being 2020, they probably should have taken him out a little sooner. But like if you go, like if I'm Grady Little and I'm going up to the mound in like the 8th inning, and Pedro Martinez is telling me like, no, I'm good, I can stay in this game, I'm probably gonna listen to him.
Well, it's interesting because that's part of the story. The other part of it is that, from everything we know, when he got through the 7th inning, he basically dialed it up to get the last out. I think he struck out Soriano. And from everything, from everyone who reported and who was there, was he basically thought when he came off the mound for the 7th inning, all right, I did what I was supposed to do, and like mentally had checked out. Like, okay, I just need them to get 6 more outs. But the competitor, as all these guys are, when the manager comes and says, "Hey, can you get us one more?"
Of
Well, of
course
course
you're
they're
gonna
going to
say
say
yes.
yeah. Your job as the manager is sometimes you have to protect them from themselves. They'll always say yes. That's
Yeah, and
any
then you
guy
gotta
that
say,
doesn't, like, they're going to get killed for that.
then you gotta say, well, you're not gonna get us one more.
And
So yeah, that's
I always
why.
think they always say the difference is that if Joe Torre was the manager that night, he wouldn't have went back out there because Joe would have had the good sense to be like, hey, look, we got Jeff Nelson, we got Mariano, you did your job. Now, granted, the Red Sox didn't have the
Yeah, the
luxury
Red
of
Sox didn't have that same luxury.
they'd had a good bullpen in those playoffs, mind
Yeah,
you, but you have to have the good sense to be like, hey, look, you gave us 115 something pitches in the most pressure packed environment possible, and we have the lead.
yeah, like
This is why we have you.
this is a good, yeah, like this is a good point to just pass the torch to someone else. So
I would also be
yeah,
remiss as long as we're bringing that game up. I just want everyone to know this. This hat is the school that I work for, Florida Tech, and I mentioned that because the all-time home run leader at Florida Tech, the late Tim Wakefield, who's from where I live down here. He is one of the most recognizable names that the school that I work for has ever produced in any field, and we've produced plenty of engineers, aviators, all that. But if you ask most people what they know about Florida Tech, they'll say Tim Wakefield. And
yeah,
I've met him on several occasions living here, and I couldn't say enough good things about him. And even as someone with no dog in the fight, I was pulling for him during those just because I knew who he was.
Oh, so like at that time you had like met him before? You had like
Oh
met
yeah,
him?
yeah. He did all kinds of charity work down here. He was someone that it was, and he never. I mean, it's one of those things I feel like people say after the fact, after someone's passed, but like even when he was alive,
People were
like
like, "This is a
Tim
great guy."
Winfield always carried himself like he was Tim from Melbourne.
Yeah,
He didn't carry himself like he was some hotshot baseball player. No, he was
yeah,
just one of us down here, and was happy to work with any charity. Was like always good for the schools around here. He went to O'Galley High School like Prince Fielder did. He helped raise the money for the lights for our baseball field, which is still a very new thing here. He raised the money for the batting cages that the baseball and softball teams use here. Just an absolutely great person, and
yeah,
it really hit me when he passed 2 years ago because it was just one
yeah.
of those like, man,
One of
they
the
had to
last,
take him.
one of the last pure knuckleballers too.
Mhm. And not a lot of people know that. I said at the start of this, he is the all-time home run leader at Florida Tech.
Yeah,
He
no,
was drafted as a first baseman. He developed the knuckleball as a last resort, and one of his minor league coaches basically was like, "Hey, look, I know you're struggling. I like you. Let me teach you something."
yeah, you might, yeah, and then yeah, no, that knuckleball. I mean, it was, obviously Aaron Boone had his way with it, and that might be why he is in the position he is now as Yankee
I
manager. But
I remember being genuinely crushed, like not even because the Yankees had won, but I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna kill him for that." Like not even in the moment realizing, like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna kill Little for the." I'm like, "Oh man, he gave up the home run. They're gonna kill him for no."
yeah,
And the next year, like the thing I'll always remember was after they completed that, like two of
the
the other
comeback.
relievers took him out to the mound, like after everybody had left and it was just them, and they took Wakefield out to the mound and like he's in tears, holding the champagne. I'm like, "That's right." Remember, just yeah, I know Tim Wakefield may not get too much play around these parts, but just extremely good people, and it's a real shame he's not with us anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree. He was on the other side of the rivalry, but always had respect and always, he was like kind of like the, one of the last knuckleballers, and like he was like kind of the guy I knew as the knuckleballer. Like when I think about like watching a baseball game on TV and like seeing the ball travel like a knuckleball, where you can actually see seams because they're not spinning at like 3,000 revs per minute or whatever. Whatever RPMs pitchers have. Like, I always think about Tim Wakefield. So
legitimately on a string, just
yeah, legit on a string, and the ball would always just like die or go somewhere weird at the last second. So like, it was extremely hard to hit, despite Boone running into that one. But yeah, R.I.P. Tim Wakefield. Anyway, back to the Mets. So, you got 6 of your next 10 are against the Rockies. The ones that are not part of that 10 are against the Dodgers. Because after we play the Dodgers, you guys play the Dodgers right after them. So, and I know you guys just played them pretty well, but you'll have another opportunity, to play them, in LA and to, prove again that, you can prove again that, the last couple of series that you've had against them dating back to last year that, that you can hang with them, that it's not, none of it's fluky.
Well, I will say the most encouraging thing coming out of that series was how well the pitching performed. Even in the Friday game where, if I'm not mistaken, they scored – the Dodgers had 7, but that was also because they got 2 in the 13th inning. And that was such a weirdly paced game because of the rain delay, and Griffin Canning only went either 2 1/3 or 3 1/3. So, like, we didn't even really get to deploy our pitching the way we normally would. But the thing that I think truly swung the series last year was how patient the Dodger lineup was against Met pitching, where the Mets kind of nibbled and tried to live on the corners, and the Dodgers are a very patient team and were more than willing to let Met pitching pitch themselves into trouble. And that's where the Dodgers were able to tack on and break games open. That didn't happen. And, I feel like once this Met lineup's up and running, and I continue to hold the line that I'm good with Juan. Like
I was gonna ask if if you're concerned yet, because I mean,
he's still walking. Like his exit velocity numbers still track. He had a ball that he hit 354 feet last night. That was 100 something off the bat. The center fielder traps it, but they call it an out on the field. Nimmo's on first.
Yeah, then they lap each other, right?
Well,
on the bases, or
so the third base coach didn't. The third base coach, I don't think, saw the call, and Nimmo went back and passed Soto on the way back. Now, the way that's obviously scored as okay. Well, he passed the runner, so the first runner's still alive. He didn't even get the benefit of it being a single, because in order for it to be a single, the runner had to have advanced. Well, but since the runner gets placed back on first, it's just a line out. It goes into the book as a 3 unassisted. So he had a ball 350 feet, it had 100 plus miles an hour. It hit it right on the screws.
It was,
and that happened.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of life
when
that's kind of life when you're like in a slump. And I mean, I guess I think you can kind of call it a slump, even though I know he's walking and still getting on base. But I mean, are you alarmed at all that he seems to be hitting more ground balls than he ever has in his career, and also seems to be striking out more than he ever has? Is there any concern there?
I mean, the strikeouts can happen, and I'm sure, and I think part of what's going on right now, and I think this was present in the Subway series, and Jerry Blevin said this, is that I think he's trying to give off the appearance of not being worried or not letting any of it get to him. Like, oh, no, well, this is just my job. That he's kind of played himself into being worried. And in trying so hard to not care, you are caring. And you subconsciously you're pressing. But as far as the ground ball stuff, yes, that does worry me, because I've mentioned here in recent weeks, Eric Chavez has said, yeah, I'm not worried whether we put the ball on the ground or not. And it's like, well, you should. With these guys, you should. With what this offense is designed to be, that ball needs to be in the air. When you like Juan Soto's not been a ground ball hitter at any point in his career. That's not why you have him. Like, if you want that, San Diego's probably gonna have an opening soon. If you want to go coach Arias, go ahead.
Yeah, for real. Or whenever we maybe the Braves decide they want to spice things up and fire their hitting coach. You can
you want to do some double agent work, be my guest. I think that'd be great.
Do some double agent work with Alex Verdugo.
But all the other hitting metrics saying that he's doing exactly, other than the ground balls, nothing looks that off. And sometimes you're just going to run into these stretches, and I just tend to buy into more of the idea of he didn't have a major injury. He's 26 years old, and spare me the whole, oh, well, you never know what age these guys. Please cut the shit out. There's nothing to suggest that there's like, oh, well, we should see this coming. Like, sometimes you see a free agent go somewhere and immediately the numbers plummet, and it's, well, who could have seen this coming? It's like, well, actually, there were a bunch of blinking red lights that you ignored. There were no blinking red lights with Juan Soto.
No.
There shouldn't be. So I'm willing to continue to stay patient on this, and I'm willing to bet by the end of the year that we're going to look back and go, huh,
that was silly.
Remember when everyone lost their mind?
Yeah. At what point would you be concerned?
If we get to September and his numbers are still like this, then yeah.
All right. So you're holding the line. Need it then. You're holding the line all year.
Yeah. I all I've heard since I think that it basically started right around when the Nationals made the playoffs in 2019 was all I've heard is Ted Williams comps for him since.
Yeah.
And if this truly is what he is, then yeah, maybe we really are cursed. But I'm willing to bet, like, okay, yeah, this is the first little extended rough patch in his entire career. I'm willing to bet it's that more than
didn't happen.
He's just done.
Yeah, and it didn't happen until what, like his seventh season in MLB or eighth season.
I mean, like I bet Pujols probably had a point like that in St. Louis, and maybe that's not what I should be comparing to, given the contracts and all that. But it's baseball.
Well, this contract's kind of one of one. You can't even really compare this contract to anything else.
And this is baseball. It will humble anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
But the 4 pitching matchups in LA it'll be McGill against Dustin May, which, boy, that could be anything.
Bet the over on that game.
Yeah.
I like the over there.
Tuesday night will be Griffin Canning against Clayton Kershaw, and I know Canning didn't have the greatest outing today, but again, I think everything about today was weird.
An off day.
Yeah, just delete that one. And I don't even know really how good Clayton Kershaw feels, because I don't think he made it out of the 4th in his first start, and then his second start was the game against us, and his night got cut short because of the rain delay. So who knows? Who knows where he's going to be at? Maybe it's a night where we go off. It could be. The Wednesday game will be Peterson versus Gonsolin, which I believe was the matchup on Saturday.
I think that's
and then Thursday will be
barn burner.
It'll be Senga versus Knack, which was the game on Sunday night. So again,
there's really
we're out there. We've got to prove that we can go out there and do that, but we're gonna have our 2 best pitchers closing that series. I feel, or 3, counting Canning. Again, I'm willing to forgive him for today. So 3 of our 5 best pitchers are going to be out there in that series. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, and there's really none of those matchups feel like none of those matchups really feel like overbearing, where it's like one team has the clear pitching advantage over the other. Like, they're all fairly even for the most part.
Dustin May, you can't be sure of what he's going to be post-injury.
Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, you never know which Dustin May you're going to get.
I mean, who knows with Kershaw right now? I think he's still working his way back to just trying to get back to
just pitching in MLB.
Yeah. Gonsolin can be decent, but he's also coming off injury. I think he missed all of last year. So he's trying to get his way back into the game shape, so to speak. And then Landon Knack is very hittable. He was one of the few pitchers we had success against last year in the NLCS, and went pretty well on Sunday night. So, Ian Hamilton's pitching for you guys again? I didn't even realize that.
Oh yeah, I guess he is. I guess he is in the game right now. Yankees still holding on to. Yankees still holding on to a 1-0 lead. I should probably pull up a stream for that. And I heard I did hear that Mania is about to start taking live BP soon, so help could also be on the way.
Paul Blackburn made his last rehab start today. We'll see what they do there. Remember, they did want to have a 6-man rotation at the start.
What happened with that prospect? Didn't the Mets call up a pitching prospect?
Blake Tidwell. Yeah, he had the one start in St. Louis. It did not go well.
It didn't go well. Yeah. Whatever happened with Christian Scott? Did he get hurt?
Well, he had Tommy John.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was matter of fact, I think it was 2 days after the game that I went to in Miami last year. They announced he was going to have Tommy John, and that was late July. So he's you won't see. If anything, you might see Nolan McLean this year. You might see Jonah Tong. You might see Brandon Sproat. Now, whether that's with the Mets or is it a trade chip, but those are going to be probably the 3 most prominent prospects pitching wise this year.
Yeah, I do think Brandon Sproat will pitch in Major League Baseball at some point this year.
But they did want to do a 6-man rotation because obviously Senga needs his rest, and they've always abided by that. Clay Holmes, I think they're trying to be very careful in terms of building him back up to a starter's workload because he hasn't done this in 7 years. And then we mentioned at the time when they signed Frankie Montas is that his numbers last year when he pitched on 4 days rest or less were terrible. He was one of the worst pitchers in the league. When he pitched on 5 or more, a perfectly average league starter or league average starter, which like if he's your 5 or your 6, yeah, sure. Yeah, take that. So that might be the way to go. And I'm fine with that. I think there was an update on Montas lately. I forget exactly what it was. I think they're hopeful he'll be back by the end of June. I don't think they have as concrete of a timeline for him as they do with Mania. I think they're hoping for mid-June for him. I don't know how many rehab starts he'll need because I don't think he ever started in spring training. I think he was down before they got there.
Yeah, he's been rehabbing since like before the season started. The last thing I wanted to ask you, Mets related, before we close out and get on to the rest of the stuff we have planned for this show in the next video. What are your thoughts on the whole Francisco Alvarez situation? Is there any level of concern? I know that he hasn't been hitting too well, and they've been riding with Luis Torrens a lot more. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that whole situation, which I feel like has kind of been overshadowed by Juan Soto's quote unquote struggles?
Well, I think with Alvarez, part of it's that Torrens has just played really well. I mean, his defense is always solid, and he's just kept hitting at a better clip than any of us expected or needed him to hit at. I think just what he provides behind the plate, like that's all you want from your backup catcher. Just call a good game, be able to throw runners out, and if you can do that a couple times a week, cool. But he's kept swinging the bat pretty well, and I mean, I know Alvarez hasn't had the best of times with it, but I think part of this is that Torrens has kind of forced the issue here.
Yeah.
I do think, and I know I've said this on the show before, but I'm not freaked yet because we just saw him 2 years ago hit 25 home runs at 21 years old playing catcher. There are very few people that have ever done that.
Right.
And he had reworked his swing. We had saw plenty of videos, and we had seen even in the first couple of days of spring training, he had changed it. I think he had tried to model it after JD Martinez, and I remember being like, well, I know what those kind of results are. Okay. And then he had the hand injury again. So he didn't even really get to have a full spring training to work on it, to see it be good.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if not just sending him down to like, hey, look, just go work on your swing, get your confidence back. Go kill AAA pitching for 2 weeks. You're not losing your job. We just want you right.
Yeah, that might be the
I don't know how
best.
you tell him that to be like, hey, look, we still believe in you. We just want you to go clear your head. Because if he went down to AAA, I'm sure he'd kill it.
Yeah, that might be the best thing for him at this point.
And I
And I
think
think he's another guy where it's like until it's like, you're probably not really too worried about him until it's September, until it's really like crunch time. Like he still has, another 3 months to, get himself right.
And I wonder if in his case, it's one of those things where because he put so much work into changing his swing and all of that got thrown off by the injury, if not just seeing those results happen where you go hit AAA pitching and it goes well, if just seeing that's like, this works.
Oh, yeah, no, this is how
I did what I was supposed to do. If that doesn't just change things for him to know that, like, okay, yeah, I did it right.
True
and he can go back up and hit major league pitching and not be worried about it. I think that would do him some good, even if the optics of, okay, well, this was the guy who was our number one prospect and you send him back down. Even if the optics don't look good, I think long term that might do him a world of good.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think a quick stint in Syracuse. That's the AAA team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quick stint in Syracuse might do him some good. Yeah, and I mean, as far as I mean, yeah, he's one of very few major league catchers to hit 25 plus home runs at the age of 21 in his rookie year. I will point out, I believe Gary Sanchez also did that, which could be a good thing or could be a bad thing as far as a player comp for someone else who's done that. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to figure it out or not going to figure it out.
And to Alvarez's credit, and because I don't think this gets brought up enough with him because so much of the focus with him is his offense. He has become a much better defensive catcher this year. His pop time is fantastic. I look, especially at the game in Arizona they won where he threw out Corbin Carroll in the 9th inning. He said that was the fastest pop time of his career. It was like 1.7.
Yeah.
He's throwing out guys on back picks now. He wasn't doing that before. So like he's really worked at becoming a better all-around catcher, and on the defensive side it's showing, and that makes me think that maybe he's not that far off offensively. He just needs to see it happen.
Yeah, or maybe so much of the focus for him has like been on improving his defense that his offense has like taken a bit of a hit, because that is something that happens a lot with catchers. So
it could be.
It could be that. And yeah, I mean, Terrence is holding down the fort for now. So, Alvarez is kind of afforded the luxury to figure it out. But he is one of those players where, it really does seem like he has all the tools to like be a very good hitting and defensive catcher. So, I think eventually he'll figure it out.
And the one thing I do cling to is that, him, Beatty, and Vientos are tight. And, Vientos had that gut check moment right around this time last year when he came back up, because I think he was on the roster at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Had a walk-off against the Cardinals, was hitting well. They sent him down anyway. And that really could have been a moment that broke him, and it didn't. Beatty had the same thing happen this year where he made the roster coming out of spring training and got demoted.
Yep.
And that could have been it. I think we were wondering if that was it for Brett Beatty. And he's been a brand new player ever since he came back up. He's probably been their best hitter for 3 weeks now. So yeah. I think Alvarez can look at this as hey, this doesn't mean you're done. Look at your two friends. You three have come up together through the system. You're all tight. You've all shared in the struggles and successes. Well, now it's your turn.
Yeah, I've seen the memes. Where it's like, or the tweets where it's like, all right, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, it's time for your hitting lesson.
Oh, yeah.
All right, yes, Brett Beatty. So, yeah. So I mean, he's definitely in good company. There definitely seems to be like a lot of, he's surrounding himself with like resilient people too. So, I'm sure if it comes to getting sent down, I'm sure that they'll be in his ear and they're gonna tell him like they're gonna give him advice on how to properly handle it like a professional and how to bounce back from it. So yeah, I would say not all hope lost for Alvarez. Any final thoughts on the Mets as we head into June before we break?
I just I want to tweet or quote the tweet from Jack Ramsey, who's been one of the better follows on Met Twitter, and he posted this earlier this evening, and I'm convinced that most Met fans that tweet dumb shit on here are like 14 and did not live through the 2017-2021 seasons. Some all-time teases in those years that most fans now would not be able to handle. And someone else said, these fans would melt into a puddle of piss if they were alive for 2009.
I saw that reply too. Yeah.
I was forged in those fires. This is nothing to me.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, we were born in the darkness. You merely adapted to it.
Molded by it.
Exactly.
By the time we made the playoffs, I was a man.
So I think a lot of people who do tweet dumb shit. I mean, it's funny because like I would say like that's probably mostly true, but then you also have some man-childs out there who I won't mention by name because they're still alive who also tweet like that. So I think it's like I think it's a combination of I think it's a combination of like 14-year-olds who don't know any better, but also like the jaded like old head Met fans who just think that no matter what happens that they're just going to be doomed no matter what.
I mean, I gotta say, 2 years ago, I think I might have fallen under that tag. I just think like last year almost felt like a baptism. Like it was just like, no, it doesn't always have to go that way. Like even knowing that the ending wasn't perfect, to have went through all that last year, like gave me a brand new perspective that I didn't think I would always have. And I think that's kind of why I am the way I am right now. It's like, you're going to have to do a lot worse for me to be panicked. Maybe that's famous last words, but I do believe that this group's going to be all right.
Yeah. And DJ LeMahieu strikes out looking to end the top of the 8th. The Yankees still hold on to the 1-0 lead. But that will do it for our weekly Mets Yankees portion of the programming. Tune into our next video where we will talk some playoff contenders so far in the season, amongst other things. So we're excited about that. So we'll be back after this.